Karen, claiming to be the owner's wife at my parents' restaurant, embarrassed herself. I'm 18 years old and often spend my free time at Joe's, the small restaurant my parents run. We offer snacks, cakes, candies, and fast food items. I also work there, especially on busy weekends, helping with orders and service. My dad lets me keep the tips I earn. One weekend, a woman in her 30s or 40s came in with her disruptive 13-year-old child. The restaurant was busy and she was advised to wait. After about 20 minutes, she was seated. I took her order and kept an eye on the register while waiting for her food. Her child was running around, yelling and bothering other patrons, while the mother was distracted on her phone. Annoyed, I grabbed the child by the hand and sternly told him to stop running. He started crying and ran back to his mother. The mother then confronted me saying, "How dare you touch my child?" I responded, he was causing a disturbance and upsetting other people. He was handling their food well when the entitled mother, speaking to me, said, "He's free to do as he likes." I replied, "Well, yes, but under my supervision." The entitled mother, clearly bracing for a confrontation, asked, "Do you even know who I am?" I chose to engage, thinking, here we go again. I responded, "No, ma'am, I don't." The entitled mother then revealed, "I'm the owner's wife. You've made a big mistake, and I will ensure you're fired and never seen here again." I was amused by her insistence on her title, which seemed to be more about flaunting her status than resolving the issue. I responded, "Ma'am, I doubt you even know his name." She then revealed, "His name is insert my dad's name." I was surprised since only a few people knew that. I pleaded, "Ma'am, please don't fire me. I'm sorry for any trouble caused. I really need this job." The entitled mother snapped, "You should have considered that before you touched my son." I tried to explain, "Ma'am, he was frustrating," but she cut me off, demanding to see the manager. When my dad, the owner, came out and asked what was happening, the entitled mother complained, "Your staff member was bothering my son. I want him fired immediately." My dad, after looking between her and me, replied, "I'm sorry for the inconvenience, but I can't just fire someone without cause." The entitled mother retorted, "Do you even know who you're talking to? The owner of Joe's is married to me. I find this staff unacceptable." My dad smiled, and the entitled mother, increasingly irate, asked, "Why are you laughing? I am serious." My dad responded, "I apologize for any trouble. Are you looking for a refund?" The entitled mother, now completely enraged, entered full fury mode. Karen, the entitled mother, was on the phone with my husband, complaining about me and my company. She demanded that we fire an employee who, unknown to her, was actually my son. We had posted the contact number for home delivery orders on a board, and Karen had mistakenly called my father's phone. When my dad answered, introducing himself as the owner of Joe's, Karen was shocked. Her face went from red to white as she realized she had called the wrong number. When I started laughing uncontrollably at her expense, she was already embarrassed. Her order was ready, but by then she was humiliated enough, especially as her child wailed in the background. We still find it amusing how she tried to drag her child out without even taking her order. It's baffling how long it took for her to realize she was speaking directly to the owner's family. Karen boldly claimed to be the owner's wife rather than considering other possibilities like being a friend or sister. If I had been there, I might have jokingly said something like, "Mom, you finally came home," and pretended to hug her with tears of joy. Others suggested adding more to the scene, asking if she was expecting Dad or if he was a half-brother. The whole episode ended with people pulling out their phones and filming the entire event. Rate this sense of entitlement from 1 to 10 in the comments below. Now, on to the next story. Story 2. My ex-husband begs to come back after a miserable life. I laughed and thought, karma. My ex-husband divorced me 3 years ago. When we got married, we agreed not to have children. I never wanted them, and he claimed he didn't either. 4 years into our marriage, he changed his mind and chose to divorce me because I wouldn't go back on our agreement. I wasn't a big believer in divorce and was prepared to stay married for life. We had a good relationship, but I guess he didn't love me enough to choose me over having kids. After our divorce, he remarried almost immediately, got his new wife pregnant right away, and they now have 2 children. In the past 3 years, I completed my higher education and secured a high-paying job in healthcare. Life has been great for me, and I'm considering settling down. Yesterday morning, my ex-husband showed up on my doorstep, crying. I assumed something terrible had happened, so I let him in and offered him a drink. He lamented about how miserable his life is. He despises his 2 children, one of whom is disabled and possibly autistic, is financially strained due to their expenses, and is unhappy with his new wife. She's gained weight, refuses to lose it, and isn't interested in intimacy. He feels trapped and regrets leaving me. He asked if I would take him back, claiming he's learned his lesson. I couldn't help but laugh at his misfortune. His audacity was pitiful and also quite astonishing. I told him that with 2 kids to support and his lack of loyalty, he's not worth taking back, and perhaps this was karma for divorcing me. He got angry, called me names, and said he expected more support and a kinder rejection. Now on to the next story. Am I the bad guy for exposing my dad's girlfriend after she tried to kick me out and faked a pregnancy? I'm 20 and a former foster kid who was never adopted before aging out. I was placed with Joe when I was 10, and by the time I was 14, we were long-term matched. Joe is the closest thing to family I've ever had, even though the adoption never happened. Joe was married when I first moved in, but his wife passed away suddenly when I was 12. We managed to get through that tough time together. Recently, Joe's been dating Sarah for about 2 years. She didn't visit often, but 3 weeks ago she moved into our house after losing her job and being unable to afford rent. Since moving in, Sarah has been acting strangely. Whenever Joe isn't around, she completely ignores me. Won't even acknowledge me when I speak or answer questions. At first, I thought it might be due to anxiety, but it's gotten worse. For example, when Joe's at work and I'm watching TV, she'll come in and blast TikTok or play music loudly, ignoring my requests to turn it down. It's not just that she's been ignoring me, she's also started saying some pretty hurtful things. The other day, she FaceTimed a friend while I was in the room and criticized me for being lazy and not contributing to the household. Yesterday, while I was watching the new Deadpool movie, she sat across from me and FaceTimed her friend again. This time she talked about how she and Joe are trying for a baby and how excited they are since neither of them has had children before. It felt like a slap in the face because I know Joe wouldn't have said something like that. He considers me his son. Either she's exaggerating or lying, but I haven't told Joe about her comments because I don't want to jeopardize his first serious relationship since his wife died. This situation is really bothering me. I mentioned this to a few people, and some suggested recording her behavior when Joe isn't around so he can see what's happening. Initially, it seemed like a good idea, but a close friend advised against it, saying that secretly recording her might make things worse. It could make Joe feel like I'm undermining his relationship and might lead to more tension, especially if Sarah twists things to make me look bad. So should I secretly record her to show Joe what she's really like, or should I avoid doing that altogether? I don't want to sabotage his relationship, but I'm unsure what else to do. People in love can sometimes act unpredictably. While I don't believe Joe would kick me out, you're right that having a backup plan is wise. Many parents do end up choosing their new partners over their children, especially if there's tension. As an adult, Joe's girlfriend might argue that you need to move out to help their relationship. If Joe and his girlfriend decide to have a child, he might side with her. You mentioned you mostly lounge and watch TV. Are you contributing to the household in any other way? If Joe's girlfriend is actively contributing, she might understandably be frustrated with you. Just so you know, I'm still in college, what Americans call high school, and will be until I finish or turn 25. Joe receives around £300 a week from the government to support me, and I also get universal credit for my expenses. Someone suggested that you should get a job over the summer instead of staying on the couch, especially if you're not contributing to the household. It's important to realize that if you don't start contributing, you might face difficulties with your living situation. At 20 years old, it's important to contribute to the household rather than just sitting around playing video games. If someone believes that Joe's girlfriend is more important to him than they are, they might not be seeing the full picture. Once she has a baby, he will need to step up and be more involved in supporting the family. At 20, it's time to start building your own life, whether that's through finding a job or pursuing higher education. You're an adult now and should be taking responsibility for yourself. However, it's also important to consider that this young man might have had a difficult upbringing and may need more time to stabilize his life. His situation isn't typical, and he may be working through issues that are not immediately apparent. If his father is okay with him staying at home while he sorts things out, others should be mindful of that context. Nonetheless, contributing to the household goes beyond just attending school. It involves helping with chores like taking out the trash, preparing meals, and maintaining the home. If he isn't contributing in these ways, it would be reasonable for others to feel frustrated. At his age, many people balance part-time jobs with school, but if that's not feasible, contributing to the household is a crucial way to show responsibility. I decided to talk directly to Joe instead of secretly recording Sarah. I felt it was more mature and sensible to address the issue face-to-face rather than through hidden recordings. My plan was to discuss my discomfort with Sarah's behavior and, if Joe didn't take it seriously, then consider recording to show him the problem. When Joe got home, I asked him to speak privately in my room. He seemed confused at first, but I clarified that I wasn't trying to sabotage his relationship. I just needed to share that some of Sarah's actions were making me uncomfortable. I reminded him how she ignores me and plays videos while I'm watching TV. When I mentioned that Sarah had said Joe didn't have any children and that they were trying for a baby, Joe appeared upset. Joe then called Sarah in to talk with us. He asked her if what I said was true, and she immediately denied it. Her body language clearly indicated she was lying. Joe firmly told her that this was my house, not hers, and that as a guest she couldn't disrespect me. The conversation grew tense, but in the end she apologized, albeit grudgingly. I accepted her apology, though I'm unsure of its sincerity. Afterward, Joe asked if I was still comfortable with Sarah staying with us. I said I was because I didn't want to break them up. I just wanted to address the issue. However, Sarah chose to stay at her friend's house for the night, which added to the tension. I can see Joe is really upset now, and I feel incredibly guilty for causing this. It wasn't my fault that we ended up having kebabs for dinner, but I still can't shake the feeling that I've caused a major conflict between Joe and Sarah. Joe went to bed early, and now I'm left feeling guilty about the situation. I hope things settle down soon. Thanks for listening. About a month ago, things seemed to be improving, at least on the surface. Joe and Sarah got back together, and I supported their reconciliation because Joe was determined to make it work. Sarah even moved back into the house and was reasonably nice to me, which was a change. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that her kindness was just a facade and that she still didn't like me, merely tolerating me, because her other option was homelessness. Things took a turn for the worse quickly. Less than a week after moving back in, Sarah announced she was pregnant with Joe's baby, which triggered a whirlwind of chaos. She gave Joe an ultimatum. Either I move out, or she would break up with him and prevent him from being involved with the baby. Joe was caught between his desire to support Sarah and the baby and his commitment to me. He made it clear that he wouldn't kick me out because I'm his family, so he chose to break up with Sarah and asked her to leave again. The situation escalated when Sarah started messaging Joe, claiming she was going to get an abortion because she couldn't afford to be pregnant. Joe, being generous, offered to send her money and cover her rent to avoid her being homeless, but she continued to play games. While borrowing Joe's iPad one day, I accidentally saw Sarah's messages and stumbled across some concerning information. Messages from a friend revealed that she had been lying about being pregnant to manipulate Joe into giving her money. She had planned to drag him along for months before pretending to get an abortion and even intended to make his life miserable after he kicked her out. I felt sick reading her messages and recorded the entire chat, including phone numbers, to prevent her from denying or claiming it was fake. When Joe saw the evidence, he was heartbroken and stopped sending her money. Now he's unsure whether to report her to the police for fraud or just cut her out of his life entirely. I've never seen him this devastated, and I feel guilty for the stress it's causing him. I'm still shocked by how low Sarah has sunk, and we're now trying to figure out how to move forward. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories.